Good evening and welcome to the July 9th, 2013 Town Council meeting. And we'll call the meeting to order. Just a brief explanation of why our mayor isn't here. Her husband is in the hospital and apparently has some cardiac issues. He was moved from Dozier to New Hanover, and she's going to be over there with him this afternoon and this evening. So I'll be sitting in her place. So if something really goes wrong and gets screwed up bad tonight, you can blame her, okay, for not being here. To begin, we'll have our invocation and pledge of allegiance. Would you stand with us, please? Heavenly Father, we thank you for, again, another beautiful day here on Oak Island and for the privilege of living here. What a beautiful place we have to live. Help us to be good stewards of all that you've placed here for us to enjoy. Our prayer tonight is that you would guide us in this meeting, that you would give us wisdom and clarity of mind, that we might make good decisions, and that we would keep foremost in our minds while we're here, and thus to serve the people of this town. And we're grateful for that privilege and that opportunity. And we pray that all that's done here tonight would be in accordance with your will for us and for this place. In your strong and holy name I pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The first item on our agenda is the public comments for general comments. And we have two people signed up for that. The first one is Sylvia Beck.
Hello, I'm Sylvia Beck, 4836 Coastal Drive. Farmers Market. We have the most fabulous, wonderful, greatest farmers market in the state. Now, we've had a little wind, a little sun, a little rain, and some lightning. Now, I can handle the wind, the sun, the rain, but I respect lightning. And so I sat in the truck a while, and then I went home. And the reason I know that we've got the greatest market in the state is we have a vendor who travels 4 hours from the North Carolina-Virginia line with produce, meat, and cheese to sell here. And there's nothing wrong with that because, you know, we do have the greatest market. But 4 hours, you do the math. He advertises on his chalkboard as his things are local. I do have a problem with that. 4 hours is not local. Once again, it's a great market. The rec department girls are doing the most fabulous job. They show up regularly. They change off. They don't complain. They do the best job that they can. We have some vendors who are very disrespectful to the town of Oak Island, the rec department, and other vendors at the market. They show up late, even after they've been asked to come at the right time, some as much as an hour and a half late. They refuse to set up in their space. They find an open space and just kind of sneak in. Girls at the rec department have asked them not to do that. They just will not listen. I hope it gets better because I'm tired of them being disrespected. I'm so sorry that those of you who are on the council, the town employees, and others cannot be at the market to hear the good things that both the town people say at the market and the visitors. The only thing you ever hear is complaints. They talk about how professional the police department is, how wonderful the townspeople are and how much they truly enjoy the farmers market. We had anticipated by now that we would have our tournament going, but I've been so busy selling at the market that I haven't had time to really work on it. So is my time up already? If there's anybody that would like to help me, it will be one of those beanbag, what do you call it? Cornhole tournaments. It'll be the mayor's team versus the manager's team. Now, we give you 2 chances. You can come and you can shoot one time for the mayor and one time for the manager. The only thing is you have to sign up in our little book and you have to put your first name and where you're from. And in that way, we can kind of track who's coming to the market. We know for sure we've had people from Hannibal, Missouri. We've had people from little small towns all over in states that I didn't even know were states. It's been a long time since I've been in the 5th grade. But we do have the cornhole out. It's just I haven't been able to get out and work with it so that we know where people are coming from. It's a wonderful farmers market. It's on Monday. And I do want to say we have so many people that are thankful for Kyle because they watch Channel 8. Thank you. Come to the farmers market. It's a great place.
Thank you, Ms. Beck. Next is Kelly Germain.
Kelly Germain, 6610 Kingsland Drive. This is a general comment on our beach tourism on the West End. First of all, I think we all agree that we've seen an incredible number of people this last week and certainly before, and it's wonderful that we have that much tourism here. My husband and I regularly walk down the West End after the tourists have left for their houses. People are leaving the canopies on the frames. This is now on the West End. They're also leaving, when they have the frames, even if they remove the canopy top, you still have the canopy wires, and some of the poles are in large, large cans to hold because the wind is quite heavy down there, so they have to try to tie them down. They also are leaving a lot of the paraphernalia of chairs and umbrellas left under, or they're putting it up in the dunes near their houses. The holes and the sandcastle moats that are dug up in the sand are not being filled in. We often fill in those holes when they are already abandoned. On more than one occasion, we have asked the people when we see them with holes either next to them or nearby to please fill them in. And on more than once, we get the response, "It was here when I got here. We did not make the hole." Well, everyone needs to hold some responsibility to fill in those holes, even if you haven't. We need better communication that is given to the renters regarding how to take care of our beach for everyone's safety, including our turtles. Everyone needs to help. A suggestion might be that when people check into the rentals, there is so much paperwork that you're inundated with. You don't read it. People don't read things anymore. Why don't they do some sort of fluorescent one-page sheet that says, these are the 10 things you must do while you are here on the island renting this house. And it can have check-in and check-out needs, but it also should have something about taking your paraphernalia off the beach because of the turtles, and it also should have something about putting the polycarts out the night before, because on the West End, they come down at anywhere between 6:30 and 7 o'clock in the morning. On Saturday, when we have recycle, they're not picking up and putting that stuff out. So we need to do a better job because we need to be protecting our environment. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else? That's the only 2 were signed up. Anyone else would like to speak? If not, we'll move on to council reports. We'll start with Councilor Royal.
You forgot. You started with me. Betty started with me last time.
Well, we'll start with Councilor Weinkauf then. That make you feel better?
I'll be happy to go. There's a couple of things I'd like to address, and one of them is what Mr. Main just said. We actually went out to the fireworks Saturday night to watch the fireworks shoot off the pier, and as we were leaving, There was canopies set up all over the beach already from everybody coming in. There were ropes strapped out onto the beach, and I actually had to stop my wife before she tripped over one of the ropes because they had it so far out from their canopy trying to anchor it down. There's a lot. It's just not the west end. It's all the way down the beach that way. And if you look at all the dunes, there's people walking and trouncing all over all the dunes. And this is a very, very hard thing to do because trying to stop this will be tough to do. I mean, we got to make it a real general effort to do this. And it's before somebody actually gets hurt, because it's just a matter of time before somebody does get hurt. And there's no sense waiting until somebody gets hurt before we react. And that's all I'm going to say on that part. The other thing is I want to let everybody know here, next month's meeting, I will not be attending. I had a previous plan out of town, and I cannot cancel that. I've tried to cancel that. And I will not get back till late that Tuesday night. So I just want to let everybody know I'm just not skipping out on a council meeting. I really tried to cancel it, but I cannot. So I will not be here, and that's all I have to report.
I have no report.
Really?
Not tonight.
Well, I don't really either. Just a couple of comments. I also attended the fireworks Monday night, and I was well, I shouldn't say surprisingly, I was impressed. It was a good show. It didn't last quite as long as I thought as I wanted it to, but it was very, very good and very well done. When we got ready to leave the beach, there was probably in our group, I'm going to say 40, 45 people, maybe including children. There was literally trash everywhere. So we took some bags, some of our canvas bags that our chairs go in, and the children, and we policed the area. We picked up all the trash. We had 4 of those large bags full of trash. You know, I don't know what you do about that. I don't know how you police that. It's almost impossible. And I understand the frustration of trying to do that. There were some canopies left up there at the end of our street that were up all week. It's an issue that we need to work on, and if you have an idea of how what we could do to help with that situation, let us know. I mean, our police department can't be everywhere. They can't be at all those beach accesses and deal with all those issues. So we may need to look at some other form of policing those areas and those items. Other than that, Councilor Kaiser.
I attended a meeting with county management on our dispatch issues last Tuesday. It was myself, Mayor Pro Tem Medlin, Mr. Foster. There was county manager was there, the current director of emergency communications, sheriff, chief deputy, our police, fire, and water rescue chief. It was a very productive meeting. Most of y'all read the paper. The dispatch center 911 has been removed administratively from emergency services and is now placed under the jurisdiction of the Sheriff's Department. With what I've seen Sheriff Ingram do to that department, Sheriff's Department since he's been sheriff, I think we will get good results. And he promised us that our issues would be addressed as soon as we got over the 4th. Some of the issues we talked about was our coverage issues in the east end of the island with the Viper radio system, procedural and protocol issues with the 911 people just not dispatching us when we're supposed to be, lack of response to our complaints from our police and fire chief, and promises that were made when we went over there last fall that have never been given to us. We didn't go into any specific remedy, but I come out of that meeting feeling confident that we're going to have some resolution to this, and we're going to have it within this month. So we will report back to you in August. That's all I have.
Thank you.
A couple of comments. One, I know that councils have in the past rescheduled regular meetings around significant events that a particular member cannot change. So I would like for us to consider that for next month. Secondly, I understand it with the dispatch, that will be managed under a different department from what it has been. And I hope that will, that new look at management will help to alleviate some of the issues that we have had and provide better service for the entire county.
Yeah, they're different.
I am certainly delighted to see that the DOT has decided to drop doing a above-grade interchange at Midway and 211, and I hope that we will soon see some more commercial development activity in that area. And I do want to let people know that there's been some conversation over the last few months about the lack of progress with the Corps of Engineers studies. I want to let people know that there are exchanges of information and letters back and forth. And I guess the best way to put it is negotiations are ongoing to try and get that back on track. And I hope that we will have something positive to report in that regard at our August meeting.
Thank you, Councilor Raleigh. Just an interesting note, I don't know whether you've ridden by the Lowe's Food site at Midway and 211 or not, but there are signs up that says coming soon. And I understand they'll be breaking ground within the next 30 days. And maybe there's even some also further expansion of that out parcel section there. So good things are happening up there, and we're glad of that. Okay, the next item is presentations, proclamations, and that's to present our audit. Foster, would you like to introduce that for us, please, sir?
Yes, sir, I certainly will. Mr. Minton Pageant will be making a presentation on this. He's the one that's been working on our audit report for some time now, and this is for the year ending June 30th, 2012. And Mr. Minton Pageant's been doing this for quite a number of years. He's with the firm of Brock, Berry & Pageant. And I don't know if he has more partners tacked onto that. I'm not sure. But anyway, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Pageant, and I'm going to let him go over what he found in the audit report. So, Mr. Pageant.
Actually, we retired Brock and added Chandler on the back end.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I knew there was some more names somewhere.
Okay. I passed out, and it's just to keep from having to flip back through several pages, the two-page numbers page. The first column there, of course, is the June 30th, 12. The general fund information as presented here actually comes off of Exhibit 3 in the financial statement. The beginning or the ending cash and investments was $4,877,913. That compared to $5,803,104 at the beginning of the year. The actual fund balance at the beginning of the year was $6,573,597. Revenues of $12,300,000, and expenditures and financing uses of $13,720,575. There was an actual decrease in fund balance, it's the overall general fund, of $1,368,756. Of this $1.3 million, right at $1.2 million was actually from the restricted funds, the Powell bill that was used up in paving last year. So that was actually planned over the long-term paving plan of the town. The other general fund items that decreased was just $177,615, which the ending fund balance was $5,204,841. With the revaluation, the total valuation was $2,490,000,000, which was down from $4,290,000,000 the year before. The percent collected went up from 95.02% to 95.32%. And then the analysis of the fund balance, what makes up the different items that are added to get the $5.2 million fund balance. Of course, the top one up there, the $25,000, that's just the amount that's represented by the inventory and prepaid. Stabilization by a state statute, that's the old state law. It used to be called restricted by state statute, which actually is the amount of the fund balance that's in the receivable that's not available to spend. So that's what that is under the new requirements. The Powell bill there, which is restricted for streets, is restricted by the state statute setting up the Powell bill. It's $667,700 at the end of the year. You compare that to the $1.8 million the year before, you see where the decrease, where the funds came from. The committed is funds that this board has committed, and that $425,000 is the balance in the capital reserve fund, which is set aside for future expenditure for capital items. And then the unassigned balance down there is $3,372,614, which was up from $2,668,659 the previous year. There are a couple of notes there about the changes required between 2010 and 2011, required by the new GASB pronouncements. At the bottom of the page, the other governmental funds, this information came from Exhibit B4, B6, and B11, which are basically combining statements, which combines the smaller funds. Most of the largest of the other governmental funds, for example, the total revenues in the other governmental funds is $1,161,000. Of that total, $1,074,000 is in accommodations tax. So most of the other governmental funds down there is the accommodations tax. And these are called non-major funds because they don't make up 10% of an account group or 5% of the overall funds of the town. The next page deals with the enterprise funds. The cash and investments on these funds comes from Exhibit 6. The operating numbers come from Exhibit 7. You notice there the water fund had operating revenues $3,116,147, operating expenses $2,398,435, net non-operating revenue, which is primarily interest, $4,622 for a net income of $722,334. The capital contributions are basically impact fees, and then there was transfer to other funds of $291,000, which took the beginning net assets of $6,837,000 up to $7,297,000. The next there is the wastewater fund. The restricted cash and investments, total cash has gone down from $12 million to about $9.5 million. This is basically your unspent assessments, and there is some the bond money that's required to be kept on hand from the last two issues, and that is what is in the restricted. The revenues were $5,664,000, Expenses were $7,985,004. That was an increase from $5.5 million the year before. But I just want to point out that the June 30th 11 depreciation expense was just over $1.3 million. Why? Because a large part of the system was only in use for part of that year. During June 30th 12, basically the system was all in service. The depreciation expense was $3,126,000. So the actual operating expenses, most of the increase is the depreciation. Non-operating expenses there net of $3,739,000. That's basically interest expense. And it comes down for a net loss on the wastewater fund for June 30th of $6,060,779. Again, there was contributed capital, which was, in this case, assessments. Transfer to from other funds of $291,000 resulted in net assets decreasing from $41,931,000 to just over $38 million. The non-major enterprise funds there at the bottom of the page are from Exhibit C4 on the assets, cash and investments, and the operations is from Exhibit C5. That is the solid waste fund and also the golf course fund. There was, in these funds combined, there was total operating revenues of $980,000, operating expenses of $1,251,000, non-operating revenues of $42,000, and to give net income before or net loss before transfers of $220,510. There was transfers from other funds of $127,000 for a net change in net assets of $100,510, and that resulted in a decrease in net assets from $2,192,000 to $2,091,000. Now that's most of the numbers. There were some findings both in the single audit and in just the compilation, or not the compilation, the audit of the state funds. Basically, the findings were the wastewater fund still has a negative, the wastewater capital project still has a negative fund balance. And that's on a modified budgetary basis. And I know you've been working with some other professionals about where the money's to come from to balance that. There was also over expenditure in that fund, and I've got another letter that I will get to you. I've realized when I was about 100 yards from the turnoff that it was still laying on my desk. But I had that. There was some findings in in the purchasing procedures. Both as to state law requires that every purchase be, and the term is pre-audited. Before you spend the money, the finance officer or deputy finance officer has to look at the proposed expenditure and say, there is a budget approved and there's funds available. And there were some cases that were not, if this was done, it was not documented, okay? And again, in this day and time, this statute was written, the majority of it, in 1973 and before. okay? Now, when you go to buy something, so many times, if you're ordering it, you can't get it if you don't have a credit card. And so there needs to be procedures for covering that, the law requires that the finance officer has to look, and there has to be a writing. And so it's hard sometimes to reconcile what you do, because you have to order it. One person has to order it. And a lot of times when you order it, you don't know what the cost is going to be. But there needs to be, close to the time that you buy it, the pre-audit, you know, back to the finance officer and say, hey, this is what we need, this is what we need to order. Because believe it or not, the 1973 statute does not mention credit cards. It does not mention electronic transfers. But it needs to be, but it still is required. There is a good, I don't know if you have seen it, but there is the School of Government. Kara Malonzi right now is the attorney that's doing a lot of she does basically all the finance law, and there's, on their site, there's something called Coates Canons, which is basically blogs. She blogs on credit cards. She blogs on pre-audit. She blogs on it. She makes it pretty interesting. I mean, us accountants, we get excited about numbers, you know, but she does a pretty good job with describing situations and how to adapt to make it work. And if you have any problems, then you call anywhere. She's the final authority anyway. So, you know, it's a good idea to read some things. She does that. And like I say, it's good reading. And that, that's the majority of that kind of findings, you know, which are basically, it's basically control system variations. It's not fraud. So, you know, it's that kind of finding. But, you know, when you find them, you point them out. You know, things have a way to get better, you know, of getting better than if you just say, hey. But you've got the purchasing procedures. You've got the state law. And, you know, you've had a lot of turnover into clerical, too. So, you know, needs to be some training and retraining and about, well, okay, this is what is out there, and this is what, you know, we have to go by. Is there any question that I can answer specifically about anything in the audit for anybody? Bonnie or I will give it a shot.
Questions, anyone? Well, we just got our packet tonight. I'm sure once we go through that, we may have some questions, and if we do, we can contact you.
I'm available.
I understand. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you for a good presentation. Okay, the next item is the adjustment and approval of the agenda. Anyone? Changes in the agenda and adjustments need to be made? If not, do we hear a motion to approve the agenda as it's written in our books?
I move to adopt the agenda as presented.
Second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Kaiser. All in favor, raise your right hand. It's approved. Okay, the next item is public comments on agenda items. And the first person to sign up for that is Bob Germain.
Bob Germain, 6610 Kingsland Drive. The agenda item is discussion of town's parking ordinance. With our increased tourism as well as higher volume of people coming to our beaches for just the day, we are experiencing more parking problems. Specifically, these troubles revolve around the rental homes as well as beach accesses. As owners of property on Oak Island, most of us take care of our right-of-ways as well as pay taxes on this portion of land. The intent of this right-of-way was to provide utility companies as well as the town access when needed. A lot of owners have groomed their yards with actual grass as well as plantings that add to the front door attractiveness of one's home. Excuse me. Of course, we all realize that this area might be dug up for some reason, but we understand all of this, usually for the benefit of ourselves as well as others. Too many of our visitors and some townspeople feel no remorse when they park on someone else's property. It should not be their right to do this. They are not the town nor utility company. A lot of our rentals need to provide more parking. The allowance of one car for every 2 bedrooms might work when a family is renting for a reunion or some kind of get-together. However, when you have homes specifically marketed for weddings, the parking becomes a chaos. With 6 to 10 bedrooms, 5 spaces are not enough. Hardly anyone carpools when they attend such events unless immediate family unit. Everyone takes their own car to these events. These houses have vehicles parked in the houses right of way as well as neighboring homes. They also park in the bike lane. There are actually 5 houses at the old Long Beach Pier property that put their driveways out into the bike lane. Plus, the existing bike lane is so narrow in places, in some places it's about 2 feet wide, so that one person or bike has to be partially in the roadway. If we are going to continue to offer these types of rentals, there needs to be an ordinance that addresses this problem rather than making those homeowners that live nearby suffer, as well as causing additional safety concerns for any walkers, joggers, bikers that have to go out into the line of traffic to traverse around these cars, boats, and also the poly carts or whatever else is in the bike lane. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Germain. Now, next is Kelly Germain.
Kelly Germain, 6610 Kingsland Drive. I'm also going to make a comment about the discussion of town's parking ordinances. It's been great to see how many tourists have been enjoying our island this summer, and especially this last week and weekends around the 4th. We know that the east end of the island has been very crowded, but so has the west end. Down on West Beach and Kingsland Drives, cars were parked up and down the right-of-ways far beyond the designated parking areas of the 2 parking lots. Cars were left on undeveloped and developed properties. We had 3 officers to cover the island during this time, and only 1 west of 58th. They tried to do their best, considering the impact of all of the additional people and cars. Thankfully, the cars parked in the no parking area of 69th Place were ticketed, because that has been a problem in the past. But other areas were not ticketed. If the policemen happened to be something happening, they usually ask the people to move their cars, since it would be blocking the flow of traffic and, importantly, would impede any emergency vehicle if needed. This became a thankless task to the officers, since they had such limited manpower over such a broad area. There were also vehicles and some polycarts parked in the bike lane of West Beach that caused walkers, joggers, and bikers to move out into the line of traffic. This actually happens all summer long, just not this last week. This is a small offense of an ordinance, but one that should not be ignored. We need to ticket those cars or have them towed. Why? Well, the majority of the other cars traveling east and west on West Beach do not slow down or move over. The number of times we have been almost hit by passing cars and or boats is phenomenal. Is it going to take someone getting killed or seriously injured to address this problem properly? We need additional help. We need additional personnel, be it either civilians that are trained to help issue these citations or call towing companies when there are vehicles, etc., in the bike path, especially during our busy summer months. The monies collected on such an act would certainly help our revenue, as well as pay for any extra duty pulled by our very capable officers. Please address this as part of the review for the needed parking ordinances. And also, by the way, if these cars are in the right-of-ways, there's no place to go if you have to jump out of the way of a car or a boat because they end up taking up too much space. So please help us. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Those were the only 2 signed up to speak on the agenda items. Anyone else wish to speak? Very well, we'll move on. We will call to order our regular meeting. And consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor? Pro Tem?
Go ahead.
Move to approve the consent agenda?
Okay, we have a motion to approve the consent agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Councilor Kaiser. All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion is approved. Moving right along. Since there were no items removed from the consent agenda, we'll go to committee appointments. Are there any? There were none in the book. No committee appointments? Well, we might get out of here by 9 o'clock tonight. Okay, committee reports. I think we do have a report from the Beach Preservation Society.
Roseanne Fortner, 113 Paula Circle, for the Oak Island Beach Preservation Society. We believe in this society that a picture is worth 1,000 words, so you're going to have to really watch fast to catch all these words, okay? We have a presentation for you about the kinds of things that we do, why we exist, what we're doing now, our wish list, and ways that you can help out with these valuable processes. What a wonderful thing is a beach. From our very earliest age, we feel that primal urge to feel it, to walk in it, to enjoy the sensation of being surrounded by something that gives when we move. This is a wonderful place to be. It is the choice of people to come to Oak Island based not on what businesses we have here, what events we have here, what regulations we enforce or not, but it's on the beach itself. We must then preserve the beach. In 1997, the town of Long Beach set up a trust fund that would be a place where citizens could make contributions to assist with beach management and preservation. Overseeing that trust fund is an advisory board, also set up in 1977. Nice. The Preservation Advisory Board is a town committee. It functions with 10 residents and 1 staff member, the members of which must be approved by council. Our budget resides with the town's fiscal office, and any excess income that we have above what we spend on our education programs adds to that trust fund. It builds year by year. Beyond the advisory board of 10 people, we have the Beach Preservation Society. This is a grassroots organization, if you will, of people who see it as part of their goal for life in Oak Island and beyond, to support the kinds of things that we do for beach preservation. We have around 330 members right now in different membership categories, but our greatest membership category is families. 54% of our memberships are families, so it's much more than 330 people. We represent 18 states among our membership, although 75% are from North Carolina, all over the state. This level of support means that people are finding something here that they want to work toward preserving. And so our mission will be presented in 5 bullets. Our first mission is to promote public awareness of beach preservation efforts, and we reach all kinds of people through the things that we do. We have print media, we have electronic media, social media. We go to the library to make children's presentations. And we have our presence at displays and booths at various town events. You can see us at Farmers Market next Monday. Our second and probably our biggest and most heartfelt mission is to educate. Our big information and education plan is for being a beach lover. You will have seen these signs everywhere. The information that's in the brochure that can be downloaded from our website or can be picked up over here on the table tonight tells us about what are the kinds of things that beach lovers do. And then this list is such an important one that we have children trained in learning the parts of it so that they remember what they're supposed to do if they are a beach lover. And we also are educating people about current events, such as rip currents. We would really like to see flags warning people when there is a high rip current risk, or even a moderate one. That's the very least this island can do for education. Our third mission is to maintain the beach accesses. We have about 67 of them, depending on how you count them. And these are places where people will find a bike rack and a box full of bags that they can use for picking up after their dogs. It has a place where they can legally walk over to the seashore, and in most cases, a place to park. We have a group of Adopt a Beach Access parents who monitor these places as part of their contribution to beach preservation. They keep track of the bags in the dog box. They report to us on the condition of the bike racks, and they even pick up the trash within the access and on the beach surrounding it. A lot of that trash is cigarettes, right? The omnipresent cigarette butts. Another part of our mission is to support beach preservation programs and other environmentally friendly beach projects. And so you will find us involved with these kinds of groups as we go about our business. And to do most of this work, we have to raise funds. So our biggest fundraiser is that wine tasting in mid-April, but we also sell gear and memberships at all of the places where we have displays and in-town events. If you were to go downstairs into Town Hall or over into the Recreation Center, you can find most of our gear available there for purchase, even if it's not a particular event. Now a little bit more about our education programming. This is a picture that led us in 2009 to start looking at the things that were happening on the beach that we didn't like. And we tried to pull together something that would be codified into the town's code of ordinance that tells people what they need to do about holes and poles. That was kind of the mantra that drove us in 2009 and 2010 while we worked on this ordinance. The ordinance came to be called Be a Beach Lover, and we thank Councilor Royal for her role in coming up with the title of it and some of the mechanisms that we use now for that. To be a beach lover is to look at the things that are happening on the beach, see your personal responsibility, see your responsibility to these endangered sea turtles that make it through the maze of holes and poles to form their nests or to hatch their young, and do what you're supposed to do about those issues. Well, different kinds of things had to happen to accommodate any kind of a program at all, but what we ended up with was signs at all of the beach accesses and all of the legal walkovers. There are 67 beach accesses that are street ends, and then in between those there are usually 2 or 3 additional ones that have ropes and poles marking them. If you go across the dunes at a place where there are no ropes and poles, you are in violation of the dune ordinance. We have posters in all of the stores. If you have a new store on the island and don't have a poster, it's free to you. Please contact us, and we will make sure that you get one delivered to you. The posters have all of the beach lovers' things that are on the sign. We have refrigerator magnets that are supposed to be in every rental property. If you're in a rental property now and it doesn't have a nice 5x7 fridge magnet that explains the ordinance, please contact your real estate agent because they have them from us at no cost. Make sure that your agent knows it belongs in every house that is rented on this island. And of course we have our gear. You can wear us, drive us, wrap your drink in us, and all of the kinds of things that we can put our logos on to remind people to be a beach lover. We have a website at the bottom that is part of the town's website attached to projects. And so another part of the Personal engagement with the Beach Lovers campaign is to sign the banner after you take the pledge. The pledge has a little bit of an extra thing besides our ordinance. We added the sea turtles into that. And then we take our banners with us all over the place so that people sign it and read out the pledge so they make their promise to do these things for the beach. It's a personal commitment, and they seem to feel it. The Junior Beach program has taken off well this year with new leadership, and we've been working with the Parks and Rec's after-school program students. We've had 3 programs with them so far, each one of which involved a physical activity and also resulted in some beach or ocean learning. In summer of this year, we will have 2 aquarium programs. The first one is over. It was yesterday, and you missed it. Huh? Okay. So don't forget the next one, which is on the 29th, Monday at 2. You can go to the farmer's market first, then get to the beach, to the recreation center for the aquarium program at 2 o'clock. We're doing a library story time next week, and Donna Michaud and her daughter Savannah will be leading a nest watch at 27 West Beach Access in August. These are the kinds of things that engage young people in doing the right thing as they grow. For communication, we have our own email address, beachpreservationoi@gmail.com, and we have a presence on Facebook. Oak Island Beach Preservation Society is looking for your like. So please go to Facebook and like us there and tell your friends about us. There is something posted every day about the things that are happening on the beach or with the Beach Preservation Society. Very important. We couldn't do all of this great stuff without partners. After all, we are 10 people with 330 members who engage as often as they can from New Hampshire or Kentucky or wherever they live. So the partners that we rely on most heavily are obviously the town of Oak Island, which shares with us magnanimously of all of its resources. They take care of us fiscally as well, managing and holding our budget. We look to them for enforcement as well, and we're going to look to them some more. You have heard from a lot of people tonight how we need more enforcement of our issues. Southport Oak Island Chamber of Commerce was also instrumental in the Beach Lovers program in helping to get the logo designed and in working with the design of the first media that we used. They are helping us with something else, which I'll mention in a minute. We work with the North Carolina Aquarium at Fort Fisher, with local businesses, our flagship being Island Way Restaurant, and with many, many committed volunteers. If you were to try to make a postcard to send home from Oak Island, July 4th would have been the day to do it. What a glorious day it was. Everywhere I went on the beach, there were people doing great things, having fun with their friends and families, just doing the things that great beaches offer. What a great thing to do. But now the other sandal drops. There are still some issues that we need to deal with. The poles with their canvas on the top have adapted to the higher tides in this summer season by moving duneward. They're anchoring in the dunes, or they're angling up onto the dunes, and taking the only space that people have to walk. This is nature's created the problem because of beaches, but nature is in charge of beaches. So we need to make sure that people are obeying the rules that we have put in place for beach preservation. They're parking wherever they want to park, not just cars. And they're walking wherever they want to walk, over the dunes with no ropes and poles marking this. So this is an illegal access, and there are more and more of them as people just need to get to the beach as fast as they can. So our bucket list is coming now. Our first list on the list is to strengthen, monitor, and enforce the ordinances that we have for beach hazards and dune protection. Strengthening the hazards ordinance would mean taking the poles off the beach and not just the canvas. Please, council, consider this as a possibility. Ask that removing all gear by sunset really mean removing all gear. Monitoring is important. As I walked the beach, I was talking to people about the great holes that they were digging and the cool things that they had to play with that day and so forth. As long as there are more eyes on the beach talking with people, you can impress upon them the things that they need to be doing without it being in a punitive sense. Finally, we need to enforce. It would really be great to see some citations in the police report every week based on people who disobeyed our ordinances for dune protection and safety hazards. And so, this is last week. Actually, it was Sunday, I think. And the poles are still there. This is early morning. You can see by the canopy in the distance, there's a nice long shadow in there. So those canopies, those canvases were left on overnight, and obviously the poles were. I get there a little bit earlier in the morning, so this one is a really early morning picture. You can see the beach turtle patrol going down and some others that were left up right up next to the dunes at 64th East. This is this morning's picture at 40th East with a canopy right up next to the dunes and then an abandoned one lying against the grasses. There are new businesses on the island that are renting these canopies for people to use while they're here. Well, we like new businesses, don't we? Do we make them play by the rules? Are the rules strong enough to engage these people in doing what they need to do in mass quantity of canopies? Think about what we need to do to monitor those businesses. The holes are the other part of the problem. You may have seen this on the news, 6 p.m. news last month. It was indeed a major hole. This is the picture of one that I sent to the town manager about that same week. This one over here at the right side has 4 steps going down into it. It's 5 feet deep. But the people that I talked to on the 4th of July that had humongous holes too, were still there with them. So these were not abandoned holes. These were okay holes. And I just reminded them not to make these abandoned holes, okay? Because the rules clearly say, everywhere you leave the beach, it clearly says, fill all holes. And by golly, when I walked back by the beach 45 minutes later, the top one was already filled and flat. The other one was in progress, shovels going crazy, being filled. It takes somebody who appears to care to remind people what they need to do to care. We need a volunteer monitoring patrol. One of the problems that we have is that people are allowed to bring major yard shovels and implements of destruction to the beach. So they bring their stuff from the garage. In this case, this guy brought his post hole digger. He told me he was going to use it to mount the canopy. How hard is that to mount a canopy in the sand? Wouldn't it be nice if we had a weekly contest to see who could make the best sand sculpture without a hole? And we'd post the picture on the web, in front hallway, and things like that to convince people that you don't have to dig to China to make a nice sand effort on our beach. So our bucket list is strengthen the ordinance, monitor it with people who are friendly but clear on the rules, and enforce the ordinances. We would also need to provide for recycling and waste disposal in more places. You may be aware that because of financial concerns and also concerns about bringing heavy equipment on the beach, for a time in late May and June, there were no trash cans on the beach front. They were all moved back into the access areas. Now I understand there are a few trash cans at the pier, but I don't know about any others. In the meantime, as Mr. Medlin described over the 4th of July, Memorial Weekend looked like this as well. So things that are happening on our beach need to have a place for that to be removed. If people can't see a place to put it, some people try to bury it. Oh, thank you so much. We need to provide a place, make it visible, and then pick it up. Recycling on this island needs an assist. This is one of our town cans at an access area that has no blue recycling container. And so it's filled with, look, recycling materials. At this access, where all three kinds of containers exist, the two on the left are town containers, and the town picks them up at a very good speed, quick schedule. Waste Management has the blue barrels. It is absolutely full of recycling, real recycling, but it's not collected often enough. It costs money. Is it worth it? Got to decide. The Southport Oak Island Chamber of Commerce has given us a great gift in the form of allowing us to reach out to the boating public. We do pretty good with the people that walk to the beach and drive to the accesses and stuff. We can reach those people. The boating public has been outside our domain until now, and so they're going to allow us to give each of the boaters in the King Mackerel tournament this fall a compostable bag with a sticker on it that says, "Stash your trash, be a beach lover." And it's such a new effort that it still says proof on our sticker there. But we're very happy for this collaboration with the Chamber of Commerce. So our bucket list includes providing for recycling and waste disposal in more places. We also need to support programs to reduce plastic bags, cigarettes, food waste, and balloons on beaches. Nobody around here does those things close by, but we can see examples of them in other places that we might need to emulate. Let's take a look. The balloons are especially an insidious problem. To a turtle that's looking for food out in the Sargasso Sea or floating around on its way to nest, this really looks like a yummy jelly, tentacles and all. Why not have a munch? The strings that these balloons come attached to are responsible for entangling sea creatures and land creatures, birds as well. If they're tangled in the sargassum that's washing up, the sargassum is the good stuff. The balloon and its ribbon are the bad stuff. One of the sea turtles at the aquarium pooped out a piece of a balloon, and we posted it on the website. How exciting is that? Proof that balloons are getting where we don't want them to be. Plastic bags, too. When we put our plastic bags out for dogs to pick up, for dogs to be picked up after, we are using regular grocery-type bags. We expect that the dog walkers on the beach have their leash, have their plastic bag, have a water bottle so that both owner and four-footed friend are comfortable. And those things make us one of the top 10 dog beaches in the country. Dog Fancy Magazine, June 2013. One of the top 10 and one of only 2 on the East Coast, Oak Island, North Carolina. I have the page if you want to look at it. But we are responsible for some of the plastic bags that happen to get onto the beach. And what you need to look for is our response to that. Look for a pilot project done in collaboration with the Public Works Department to buy and mount biodegradable dog bags in boxes that just, you pull them out through a slit. So we're excited about this effort, and we'll be monitoring how well these are used. We know at least they probably won't take these biodegradable bags to batten down the corners of their canopy. Food waste. I don't know of anybody that monitors what you bring in your picnic. But by golly, when you finish your dinner at home, what happens to the waste? You clear the table, right? Look what we get left with when people finish eating here. I left the footprints in so you could see how close these are to food waste. There's one that was pretty close, wasn't it? Nice. Maybe apples are more to your liking. What happened to the last apple core you ate on the beach? Maybe it was peanut shells, particularly benign, right? No smell. Orange rinds, or my particular unfavorite, a banana. Now, we've taken biology at some point in our lives. We know these things are biodegradable, but it takes weeks for these things to biodegrade. And in the meantime, they're drawing insects and they're creating bacteria and mold on the beach so that my grandchildren get to walk around in compost if I don't watch every step they take. Let's make sure that the people who are watching this show on television, the people that come to our houses or walk our streets, that they know to clear the table when they're finished with their picnic, and don't leave us this kind of yucky mess. They're also leaving us with a whole bunch of other stuff. And this is about 1/4 to 1/3 of the pickup that was done in the beach sweep last October. At the top of this list, as it is in the whole rest of the world, are cigarette butts. We'll watch Wrightsville Beach and see how they do with that. It's probably one of those things that we had to just moan and shake our head over, but we need to pay attention to that. If you want to see what other things take to decompose, check the Ocean Conservancy website. So our bucket list includes supporting programs that reduce all of these things, and finally making beach preservation a priority for every property owner and visitor. Wouldn't it be awesome if all of these people bought into the idea that they have a personal responsibility to take every piece of their gear off the beach, to take every piece of their picnic off the beach, including the plastic bag that managed to blow over into somebody else's beach towel? Wouldn't it be great if they saw their responsibility as filling up the holes, even if they're in the wet sand, but particularly if they're in the dry sand? How great would that be? So even though we have wonderful facilities to offer them now, we still need to stay off dunes and plants, fill in holes, protect sea turtles, take all your gear when we leave at the end of the day, and pick up trash. This is what it's all about. We are producing a legacy here for the people that will come to Oak Island with us and then buy property here or build businesses here later on. If it's all about the economy, think about how we're looking at the future of our beach in terms of the care that we give it now with its current visitors. We invite you to join our flock. The Beach Preservation Society has its membership forms and volunteer forms and most recent newsletter over here on the table. You can also go to our website or send us particular information by email. We'd be happy to talk to you. We talk to people that are interested all the time, and we try to explain to them, why can't we do more? It's kind of up to you all to do your part as council members. We're doing the best that we can as only volunteers. Thank you.
We've been in session almost, well, over an hour, almost an hour and 15 minutes. Let's take about a 6 or 7 minute break. Okay, we'll call our meeting back to order. If you will, take your seats, please. Councilor Royal, I would recognize you at this time to make a motion to suspend
Thank you,
the rules.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules to consider adding an item to the agenda.
Okay, a motion to suspend the rules to add an item to the agenda. Second?
Second. I second.
Councilor Kaiser, second. Any discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carried. Okay.
Now I'd like to make a motion to add as new business number 4, consideration of rescheduling our August regular meeting.
Okay, the motion is to amend the agenda, add item number 4 to reschedule the August 20th meeting.
Regular
August
meeting.
Regular meeting, yeah. Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Not all in favor, raise your right hand. Any opposed? Motion carried. Okay. Moving right along. Administrative reports. Mr. Foster.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Medlin. You've done a wonderful job this evening in handling the affairs of the town, and I think everybody here appreciates your good handling of that. Great. Several things. Councilman Kaiser's already mentioned this about the emergency communications meeting that we went to with the county manager and others, and the sheriff. I believe the sheriff was there, and other members of county staff. I think this will be, echo what Councilman Kaiser said, I think this will be a big improvement if we can get things worked out. I think that there's two basic problems that we're faced with. We're having a problem with coverage of radio signal, which is producing potential problems for the police department as far as safety is concerned. And then the second would be protocol issues that they'll be working on. And I feel very confident that Sheriff Ingram will be able to handle some of these things. But we are really working on as hard as we can to try to get this important issue worked out. Software selection implementation. Ms. Word continues to work hard on that. She was on vacation, took a day of vacation in Delaware to go talk to a town that's currently using some new software, and I think she brought some information back on that, and we're scheduling the last interviews for the software issuance sometime. I guess it's next week, I suppose, is when it's going. At least one of them, I'm not sure about the other. But we're closing in on it. Thank goodness we'll be getting that owner's task out of the way fairly soon. I just want to ask for the public's indulgence on a couple of things that we're kind of light on right now that we're working on. Number one is we're running a little bit short on customer service position or positions that we have now. We have had one person leave us, and I think we're trying to get some help in that direction. So if we're a little bit slower on our customer service downstairs, we are running a little bit short personnel-wise, and we appreciate the public's indulgence on that. And a related item, as everyone knows, we've had probably, I think it's around 11 inches of rain over the last 6 weeks. We've had plenty of it. I think this is one of the wettest Junes that we've had in quite some time. Therefore, the grass seems to be growing real well around, and the faster we cut it, the faster it grows. So if you see the shoulders of the road with a little bit more grass on it than it should be, primarily it's due to the fact that it has been raining really hard, and the grass has been doing very well. So we appreciate your indulgence along that line. One last item administratively on some things that I need to mention is the vegetation pickup. And we've had some mechanical problems with the grappling truck. I think John had been working on those. So we're trying to get around as fast as we can for some of the vegetation pickup. But those are the three areas I just want to bring to the public's attention. We recognize as being a little bit of a problem, but we're working on it. Some of it's in our control and some of it's not. So we appreciate everyone working with us on that. We did a post-4th evaluation at our last staff meeting. A couple of interesting things came out of that. First of all, I'd just like to note that the town staff picked up over 16,000 pounds of garbage just on the beach alone. And that was just what came off of the beach strand. And that's a pile of garbage. And there was everything in there that you could possibly imagine, some things you don't even want to imagine. But I want to thank the staff for getting that, and thank Waste Industries for their part. But John's guys were down there every day with their cart picking up trash on a regular basis, and we're striving to keep the beach as clean as we possibly can. But when you grow from a population of 7,000 to 25 to 30,000 people, bodies generate quite a bit of trash. And this was an unusually busy weekend, I think, based on what everyone has told me about that. I would like to mention Dave Kelly and his crew. We had 1.3 million gallons of wastewater that was processed at the peak. we had a pump station that went down. They worked virtually 24 hours a day to keep that running, which we very much appreciate. They missed a whole night's sleep, came back the next morning, showed up at 8 o'clock. So his crew really put in a great effort, and I just wanted to acknowledge that. John, Dave, and you can tell you guys, I think everybody here appreciates it. We did have one sewer backup on one pump station, but I think they've gotten that worked out and got it cleaned up, and we're just glad that that part of it is over. We're having a hurricane meeting tomorrow with staff members, and we also have a representative from Caswell Beach, the town manager over there, and we're going to be sharpening our skills on what we're going to do as far as hurricane evacuation, post-storm reentry, and post-storm restoration. And so we just want to make sure that we have all our ducks in a row. Hopefully we're not going to have any hurricanes this year, but we're just not sure. We're also monitoring Tropical Storm Chantal, which is coming up. I think it's hitting Dominican Republic tomorrow morning. It looks like it's just going to be a tropical depression by the time it gets here in 4 or 5 days, but we are keeping a close eye on it. We've seen many times where these tropical depressions and tropical storms have turned into minor hurricanes or medium hurricanes, class 1, category 1, 2, or possibly a low 3. So we are keeping a real close eye on that as well, too. Some of the issues that were brought up, I want to thank the Beach Preservation Society, which, I mean, they just do a lion's share of things down there for us, and keeping and coming up with recommendations and keeping the beaches clean. They work well in working in coordination with our staff, and I really appreciate y'all's cooperation on that. There are a few things that we can do on the beach, and a few things I'm not going to get in a lot of legal ramifications that we can't do, but we are trying to do everything we can do to implement most of what they have asked us to do in that direction. I think that covers pretty much everything that I have there for Tim.
Thank you, Mr. Foster. Mr. Eads?
I'll just follow up with what Mr. Foster said, Mr. Medlin. The pending litigation I've been talking about for the last 3 or 4 months, the pending legislation that I've been talking about for the last 3 or 4 months addresses and will clarify what a municipality can and cannot do on the dry sand beach, the public area of the beach. That is still in the House. Hopefully that will pass this session, and if it does, that will define more of our ability to regulate things such as tents and posts and holes and that type of thing. So hopefully we'll get an answer from the General Assembly sooner rather than later and to help guide the town in that regard. And that's the end of my report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Foster, one thing that I would like to mention on the enforcement issues on this, what the Beach Preservation Society mentioned tonight, maybe we should involve our Emergency Services Advisory Board in this. Maybe they could come up with some ideas about how to enforce some of this.
Okay.
It's kind of an untapped resource right now.
That's true.
Okay.
So we can certainly ask them to look into that.
Okay, now we enter to the old business portion of our meeting. First is consideration of staff recommendation to phase in new parking decals and to establish a fee for purchase. Mr. Foster, you want to speak to that?
Yes, sir. At the last meeting, we presented a recommendation for the Emergency Services Committee regarding the use of current stickers for re-entry into the town, and I think Van gave a good report on the problems associated with those stickers being used as re-entry stickers. And as board remembers, they took action to make these stickers potentially being used as parking stickers in lieu of re-entry stickers. And so the chief, Van, do you want to come up real quick and just talk for a few minutes about the recommendations we came up with on this? We have those recommendations in your packet. I think that was what Councilman Royal had asked that we do. And I'll let Van address some of these. Basically, what we're asking for or suggesting, or I'll just let Van go ahead and make the presentation.
It's the same thing I talked about at the last meeting. What we determined would be best was $5 per sticker. They would be issued through the collections department downstairs during the day, and that I think Bonnie said it would be best to make the cutoff date in the mid-year instead of the beginning of the year, since taxes and so forth come in January. So we set it for mid-year, and we've elected to make them valid for 2 years. Current stickers that are issued out now, which is 20,000, will be good until the end of this year, and then they would have to re-up and get the new sticker. That's basically it. Okay.
Yeah. But in other words, people could start buying the new stickers and transitioning that out now if they wanted to.
Yeah, as soon as they come in. I'm not sure if they've came in yet. Mr. Napinski's in charge of the ordering of the stickers. I know they've been ordered, but I don't know when
They should be here this week. There'll be blue stickers and they'll be numbered so we can keep up with them.
Okay, any other discussion, questions relating to this matter?
Just one comment, and that would be, wonder if we could actually incorporate the sticker itself on the signs where these will be used, so that people, and particularly since we're doing this change with the stickers, in other words, by the end of the year, whenever these new ones go into effect and the old ones are no longer valid, that we've actually got, during the 2 years or whatever color it is, whatever we're using it, that's actually on the sign itself.
I would have to let John answer that question. He's in charge of the signs.
But that would be a suggestion, to actually have an inventory made of, and check. I know we don't have someone in charge of just signs anymore, I don't think, but to actually inventory and make sure that we keep the check on what's been approved and how many spaces at what access, and are the signs in proper condition and appropriately, the spaces appropriately marked, and is there some way we can actually incorporate the sticker into that sign?
I think the only issue with incorporating the sticker, unless you just done the sticker itself in no color, which you'd have to be changing every 2 years of signs, which would.
Yeah, but I mean, is there some way of doing that? And just a suggestion to look at, because you've got time to look at that.
I really don't see a reason we couldn't do that.
Why not? I mean, could you just put the sticker on the sign?
That's what I was saying. I don't see a reason.
Okay.
John, can you do that? All right, good.
Okay. Anyone else? Mr. Kaiser? Painter?
I guess you would probably needed to fix it on the sign so that it couldn't be removed.
Yeah, that would be the
right.
ultimate goal. Right.
Jeff?
The only thing I see with that is it's going to increase the cost, because if you're going to put stickers on every sign, or try to attempt to put stickers on every sign, you're looking at a lot of signs you're going to be putting stickers on. I think the cost will go up a little bit.
How many would that be, John, just roughly,
It's 10,000.
No, how many signs?
I think there's about 80 signs. There's about 80 signs.
That sounds about right. I think it's fewer than 100, I think.
It's somewhere around 100. There aren't that many restricted spaces.
Yeah.
17 cents each.
How much?
17 cents each.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And we could probably even recruit some volunteers to put them up. I'd help do it. Let me drive your truck.
Just something to think about incorporating before time gets here, that's all.
Okay, would someone like to make a motion relating to this?
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I make a motion to approve staff recommendation to phase in new stickers as presented, and to amend the fee schedule to establish a $5 fee for the purchase of parking decals.
Okay, we have a motion. Have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Weinkoff.
One item of discussion, I know it's written out in the packet, but just for, just to make sure everybody knows that it's not a requirement to purchase the parking stickers. It'll be only if anybody desires to have a parking decal to allow them to park in the spaces labeled town resident parking.
Exactly. Thank you for bringing that out. Okay, any further discussion? So we ready to vote? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Okay, the next item is to schedule a joint meeting with the Capital Improvements Committee in August.
Nope. New business number 1. Parking ordinances.
Oh, okay. New business. Discussion of town's parking ordinances. Okay. Keep me straight. Who wants to start on this?
I believe, if I might, Mayor Pro Tem, I think Councilman Royal brought this up to ask us to put this on the agenda, so I'll let her.
Thank you, Steve. Yeah, I did, and my intention is to focus on looking at how we manage parking on all the rights-of-way, not just the street and accesses for the beach area. We certainly heard a lot of discussion about problems that parking could create in one area earlier this year, and we've heard some and gotten some email as well, and heard some here tonight comments about people parking all over everywhere and obstructing, even in violation of some of the ordinances we already have. There's an ordinance against, it's illegal to park on the bike lane. We don't enforce it. But there are other ordinances, other changes I think that can be made to our ordinance to clarify where people do and don't park in the beach areas if they're looking for access to the beach during the peak season. We have a lot of spaces marked with wheel stops. And in my mind, if a parking space doesn't have a wheel stop, it's not a parking space. Most people don't follow that rule. That's the rule I follow and have for a long time since we put those in after Floyd. Until we can, and each area may be a little bit different. We have a lot of no parking areas designated already. And I asked for an updated list of that. We need to make sure that the list that we have is the one that has been approved by council. And there are other areas I'm sure that probably need similar attention. Conflict between the residential areas and the people seeking to go to the beach. And we need to try and make accommodations for both in the best manner that we can, use the resources that we have wisely. If there are other places we can mark for spaces, we need to go ahead and do that. But we're never going to be able to implement in the future any kind of system for paid parking, whether it's decals or whether it's annual passes or anything else, unless we can clearly delineate where you can and can't park and enforce it.
Or signs and more fines.
And so what I'm looking for is strictly and the police department will be the department that will enforce it, and Public Works will be the department that has to work with the signage and the marking areas, because it's streets. And I'm looking for those two departments, along with anyone else that the town manager may think is appropriate, but certainly, and certainly for him to be part of that process, to look at the different areas and look at it now while people are here. And what have we got in place already, and how can we improve that, or what changes do we need to make to manage our parking resources better than we are in our right-of-ways?
In view of that, just to let you know that we have been in contact with a company called Lanier Parking. They handle the parking in Wrightsville Beach, Wilmington, Myrtle Beach, a number of other beach communities. about giving us some assistance along this line, just coming down and talking with us about it. I think it's Scott Diggs and Kerry Lomas. They're both General Southeast managers of the company. Are going to be coming in on July 18th, and meeting with. We're going to meet with Josh, myself, Van. I guess John's going to go along with us, just to go around to look at our pattern of parking, seeing what we have, what we need to do, what areas can be contained for sticker parking, if there's enough of that, what could be potentially done to implement a paid parking plan. Not to say that we're going to put one in, but just generally look at the prospect of that sometime down the road, if that's it. So I would think that they would probably be able to offer some pretty valuable advice on what we need to do and how to go about doing it.
Well, and I'm not looking to implement any kind of paid parking. People need to understand that. But we need to manage the areas that we have for parking better than we're doing. And part of that is the way the ordinance reads. We have a one-size-fits-all kind of ordinance now. There need to be, I think, different ordinances that regulate the right-of-ways for parking in our beach areas than you do in the wooded area. I think we've already made some of those distinctions in the no parking zone areas, and there's certain ways we can do that and certain ways we can't. There's, we have an attorney who can guide us in the legal issues related to that. And there's been a lot of discussion about that over the years. The last major overhaul, though, was 0405, and still did not specifically address.
Well, the issue tonight is not to implement paid parking. No. Make that clear, and that's not something. No, it won't. We don't need to take anything off the table. We need to be looking at everything that we can do to improve the way we do things here. So what do we want to do on this? You want to wait and let's bring this back after we've had this meeting with Lanier and get some input from them?
I would think that would be good. I'm not going to say that we're going to take every recommendation they come up with, but I think that they've had enough experience in tourist-related parking areas that I think they can give us some valuable advice on what we need to do.
Well, and the areas that I'm talking about, basically, any of the streets heading oceanward south of Live Oak, then coming up the southeast streets that come down from Oak Island Drive, you're coming back around, down to, and probably take that all the way to 40th. You're looking at some different changes, whether it's, Ocean Drive or East Beach Drive on either side of that, how far back up, where do you draw the lines as to where parking is allowed and not?
Primarily on the ocean side.
Yeah, and then you get from 40th on, and there's certainly parking between Dolphin and East Beach and West Beach that we've established. Do we try to eliminate any right-of-way parking on Dolphin or Beach? Those kinds of things are at some point down the road, and what kind of ordinances do you need to make that happen, and what kind of enforcement mechanism is going to be cost-effective?
Well, the parking we all know is going to become a major issue in the near future. Mm-hmm. And
already an issue.
It already is, yeah. And if we can get some input, some recommendations, some direction from this meeting you're going to have, then do you have a consensus that you'd like to wait until after this meeting and discuss this, bring it back and discuss it again?
I'm really not looking for anything to come back from staff probably before September or October.
Okay. Well,
we can certainly get something together by then.
September, October will be good. Yeah,
but I also hope that consideration will include a review of the ordinance, at least on an ordinance level. What ordinances other beach towns with similar summer populations have. In particular, I think Carolina Beach and Emerald Isle would be good examples to look at. It's something comparable to what we have here.
Okay, so we'll look forward to that discussion at a later time in September or October. Then next is scheduling a joint meeting with the Capital Improvement Committee in August. Presented by Ms. Stikes, and I guess we need to discuss this. Does anyone have any ideas? I'll just tell you, since I'm still a council member, by the way, I can still, I still even have a vote, don't I?
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, he do.
Wow. I value the input from the Capital Improvement Committee. It's a valuable tool in the budget process, I think. And I would like to see us go ahead and plan this meeting with them so they can have some time to get their stuff together. That's just my opinion. What about the rest of you? Is there a consensus of that?
Absolutely.
Come on, let's wake up. Okay. There's 4, 5.
Just a comment.
Okay.
We finally had a good workshop with Capital Improvement Committee on the back end of their work, so we could actually talk about their recommendations this spring, which is something I have advocated for a number of years, as I believe Kelly is aware of. I quite frankly see no need for a meeting this soon again, after just gone through the budget process. Perhaps in October or November when we met.
Who came up with this
guys
meeting
again
date?
before. It's just what we had done before, but I just feel like the time would be more productive later on into this budget year.
Is this date a request of your committee, Ms. Jermaine?
For about the last 5 or 6 years, we've had a joint meeting in August with the town council to basically establish parameters of how you would like for us to view for the next planning year, because we do start our process early in the fall with the town manager, and then in turn doing some preliminary meetings with the department heads to find out their take of how they thought the last one went and what we could possibly do to improve. So it's kind of the kickoff with you and the town council and the mayor before we start our next process cycle.
So I assume that August the 13th is a good date for you all.
Actually, our regular one is August 8th. It's the second Thursday of the month. Since August 1st is a Thursday, it would be August 8th.
Suit better?
Pardon?
The 8th would suit you better?
8th is our normal meeting date. But it's up to whenever you all.
Well, this won't be a long, drawn-out process anyhow.
No, it will not. And actually, it's really to, we want to review what we think we can do better, and we also would like input from the town council and mayor and town manager as to how you think the process can be improved. So it's really a collaboration, so to speak, rather than a formal meeting.
Well,
Thank you very much.
And I understand all that, Kelly. We've at some point, the process has to be somewhat self-sustaining. I do get, as I have said, I've worked for a number of years to get the workshop to actually talk through the recommendations at the end of that process. And I quite frankly don't see another meeting on the front end as productive use of time. That's just my opinion.
Could
and
we
it's
hear
nothing
from other
against
council
what
members?
you do.
Other council members, what's your opinion on this? Speak up.
I personally think that we got off track with capital improvements, and then our meetings to catch back up with them was pretty productive. And I'd hate to see us get off track with something that's been going on in a good process working for the last few years. I'd like to keep on schedule with them, so when they get into the fall and they start working with the town manager, that they're right on schedule and they can do the work they're doing instead of waiting for council to come and get with them.
Okay. Ms. Painter?
Well, I believe that a goal of our new town manager, Mr. Foster, is to start our budget process much sooner, and I think that this would be a good a good step in that direction.
Okay, Mr. Kaiser.
I agree. If they're going to start planning in fall, we need to meet with them before you start, because you may do something at the first meeting that's totally different. Not saying that we wouldn't like it or anything. So I think we need to be involved when y'all start.
Okay, so that's 4-1, so I don't think we need to take a formal vote. We will.
You have to schedule a meeting, you have to take a vote on scheduling a meeting.
Okay,
yes.
okay, we'll have to vote, okay.
Yep, you actually do.
A motion.
I move that we meet with capital improvements on August the 8th at their regular scheduled time, which I believe is 6 o'clock.
Yes.
Second, anyone?
Second?
Second, Ms. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, raise your right hand. All opposed likewise. Motion carried 4-1.
If I could just make a comment about Dara, yes, you're correct that it would be self-sustaining after a certain point, but we as a committee, and Carl and I have been on this now for 9+ years, we always are looking for ways to improve, and we feel that looking for the ways to improve is probably better early in the process rather than later on. So that's hopefully self-sustaining, yes.
And again, Kelly, I don't feel like those tweaks in the process require another joint meeting.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to the next item. Mr. Michaud, you probably want to come to the podium. This is the approval of the contracts for disaster debris removal and disaster debris monitoring.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, if I might. I guess we could have put this on the consent agenda because it's sort of somewhat mundane, but I thought it was important for the board to understand the importance of this. For the audience, what this encompasses is a contract with a company to come in after post-storm cleanup, after a hurricane, most notably, which we're not going to have this year, by the way. We have an ordinance that we're not going to have them this year, right? But in the event that the ordinance doesn't work or found illegal, we've found that we really probably need to address this. There's huge amounts of debris after hurricanes, as many of you know that have been through this, and probably one of the most expensive parts in post-storm recovery is the collection and proper disposal of this debris. So FEMA allows the town to be able to contract with one of these large debris removal companies to come in and take care of the problem and be able to dispose of it in a proper way. The second part of this is that we have to contract with a monitoring company to come in to make sure that the debris removal company is not overcharging the town or FEMA for making sure that the proper amount of debris has been disposed of and accounted for. So basically, that's pretty much the two things that we're covering with this. Also, FEMA requires that this be put out on bid every 3 years. So most notably in past years, a lot of places did it for 5 years. Some places would do it by piggybacking off of the county, which is now, FEMA does not allow that any at all. So we went through this laborious process, and Chris Napinski was involved with it, and it was quite a detailed RFP that went out on this thing. So what we're asking the board, John, I didn't mean to steal all your thunder.
No, you're doing a good job.
But in order to get this done, we have to get the board to approve these contracts. Now, we're not subject to paying anything out at all unless we do have a storm. And at that point, the debris removal company comes in, then they'll invoice the town for whatever the cost is. We take that invoice and send it on to FEMA, and then they reimburse us for the cost of that.
5 years later, right?
No, things have gotten better with FEMA than they used to be. Now, Sandy was an exception, I guess, because of the size, but in Irene, we had some damage at North Topsail Beach, and we were reimbursed within 90 days for everything that we spent money on, for everything that was allowable. So this is an important part of the post-storm recovery process, and that's what we're asking you for tonight, is to approve these contracts that went through a bid process in order to engage these two companies to come in, should we need them.
Yeah. Question. I seem to recall that the previous arrangement we were under, we're doing that every 3 years, and that that would have expired at the beginning of this year. Is that correct?
That's correct, John.
Yeah. And had we gone to piggybacking off the county, or seems like we had it at one point, but maybe we went back to the other. Yeah. But is this the same company that we've been under contract with, or a different one?
No, it's not. Different firm.
Different firm.
And I'm not aware, I don't believe we were under a contract for monitoring previously. We just had.
No, we didn't have a monitoring contract previously.
We did not. And who was the county contracting with for their work, you know?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, the key thing on this is to have somebody in place so you're not scrambling around trying to find somebody to do the work after the fact when everybody else, you know, get those things nailed down.
Matter of fact, the county more than likely has multiple contractors because of the sheer size of the county. I know Onslow County, when I was there, they had 4 different contractors that they used. Yeah. And what they did was, I think they divided up in various districts.
I don't know, we've got more swampland than Onslow does, so that may not be the case in any event.
And one thing I do want to ask John, when did the current contract for debris removal run? Is it already out?
Correct.
It's already gone. Okay.
You have anything else to add?
Not except for the fact that we, like Mr. Foster indicated, issued requests for proposals, received 4 proposals for each of the, from 4 companies responded to each of the proposals, and we reviewed them. And you can see here we made recommendations for the debris removal and the monitoring services. So.
Since there's no money exchange at this point, what criteria were used in selecting the firm to recommend?
Their experience, references. I checked the references, and we had rate schedules where they had to provide predetermined rates for all the different types of services. So I evaluated that as well.
What they did, Councilor Royal, is that they have a quantity that they've already set up that they can use as a guide, predetermined. I don't know what it was. Was it 100,000? It was 1 million cubic yards.
A million.
Right at 1 million cubic yards of disposal. And then they use that as a guide to be able to cost out on a hypothetical basis on that 1 million yards of debris to be disposed of.
Okay.
Just one question. So by the fact that we have the debris removal company and a monitoring firm, does that ensure that all of our costs will be reimbursed or not?
Yeah, this is going to, what this is doing, they'll be able to quantify the amount of debris that is being removed so they can verify that and give it to FEMA. So FEMA comes back and says, well, how do you know this is the amount that was taken off? Monitoring company, well, you'll have 2 checks. You'll have truck ticket checks at the disposal site where these things are from the actual debris removal company, but also you'll have this monitoring company there to make sure that this stuff, it has been disposed of or has been hauled off. The other thing that the monitoring company does is on each dump truck that is full of this debris, which primarily is like mostly, in our case, mostly limbs and leaves and possibly construction C&D material, to make sure the truck is packed. Instead of putting 1 or 2 limbs in it and then going over to the landfill and saying, well, here's our load, and you've got 2 limbs in it, obviously they're cheating the system. So to make sure that these are full trucks and full loads, that they're taking it to the landfill, and those quantities are quantified by the monitoring company.
And our criteria for the monitoring firms was, one of them was give us your experience in reimbursement percentages and how successful you were in reimbursements from FEMA.
I know at Debris Removal Corporation, which was engaged with the previous town I was in, they had a policy that they wouldn't ask for any money until they would submit the statement, but they would not come after the town for the money until FEMA had actually reimbursed the town, which was a pretty nice thing to have. Now, I don't know about this particular one, but I know Debris Removal did that.
So what are those, what is the percentage?
And they don't guarantee a percentage, but their history has been very, very good. And that was included and confirmed through the reference checks that I did with Dare County, Rocky Mount, Trent Woods, and Onslow County. Some of the different public works directors that I contacted over the eastern part of the state confirmed their experiences were very good, and their reimbursement rates were 100% in most cases.
Okay.
Yeah, and this contract would be good for 3 years, is that right?
You said the contract is for 3 years. It would be 3 years.
Okay, any further discussion? Do I hear a motion?
Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, Councilman.
I move that
Page
we
46.
approve both of these service contracts as shown in our packet.
Page 46.
Wait, let's see, hold on. I make a motion to approve the contract with Crowder Gulf Disaster Recovery and Debris Management for disaster debris clearance and removal services, and the contract with Scientific Applications International Corporation, SAIC is the acronym, for disaster debris monitoring, as presented in our packet.
Okay, have a motion. Anybody second?
Second.
Second, Councilor Kaiser. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, raise your right hand. Any opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Okay. Next item, rescheduling the August council meeting. Councilor Royal, you was the one that did
Thank
this.
you, sir. Mr. Pro Tem, Mayor Pro Tem. Yeah, and given the nature of Councilor Weinkauf's inability to reschedule a conflicting event, I moved to reschedule our August regular meeting from the second Tuesday of the month on August the 13th to the third Tuesday of August, which would be August 20th at 6 p.m.
Okay, have a motion, need a second.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. The last item on our agenda is council comments. We'll start with you this time, Councilor Royal.
No comments.
Really? Okay, Councilor Kaiser.
No comment, sir.
No comments.
I would just like again thank the town staff. We've already seen how busy this season's already started, and they're doing an outstanding job. And my thanks to all y'all.
Okay, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, all in favor? Seconded by Mr. Kaiser.
Yeah, it's seconded.